Welcome to the Elevate Media Podcast with your host, Chris Anderson. In this show, Chris and his guests will share their knowledge and experience on how to go from zero to successful entrepreneur. They have built their businesses from scratch and are now ready to give back to those who are just starting. Let's get ready to learn, grow, and elevate our businesses. And now, your host, Chris Anderson.
Welcome back to another recording of the Elevate Media Podcast. I am Chris Anderson, your host. Today, I want to touch on the top 3 reasons that video podcasts are successful. So get ready for it. Get out your pen and paper, unless you're driving, and let's get into it. All right. So the first thing successful video podcasts do compared to everyone else is they get right to the point and hook their listeners in for that episode. Now, this can be done multiple ways, but they are not having an intro or a start to their podcast that are minutes and minutes long. They're getting right into it. So whether that be they pull a juicy or interesting part of the episode and put it at the very beginning to get people listening, and then transition into their canned intro, which then goes right into the episode. That's one way to get a hook. Or they start with something very interesting or controversial or something that, again, intrigues people, gets them wanting to listen. And so that might be them just introducing the episode and doing a polarizing comment or question to those listening. So that makes the person want to find out the answer or hear their side to things or why they think that way. Or they just use a canned intro, but that canned intro is very short. You got to think we can't keep attention very long. So the quicker you can get to hooking somebody into the episode and getting into things and getting them interested in what the episode's about, the better. That's the first thing that successful video podcasts are doing compared to the average podcasts who are speaking for minutes and minutes about who they are, what the show is, ads, rate and subscribe, review, all that. The most successful ones are getting right to the point and hooking their listeners in. And then the second one, to piggyback and flow off of that one, is that successful video podcasters structure their show, structure their conversation in a way that keeps people's attention. So again, multiple ways you can do this, and it could just be where you've grown an audience and they come to expect you to ask really thought-provoking questions to your guests or bring on really valuable content that they can learn from and that has benefited them. Or you can do things where at the beginning, a lot of successful shows, they will tell you what you're about to hear again. Then they will tell you why you need to stay and listen to the end. So maybe it's a really controversial thing that you're going to hit on in the end. Maybe it's a bonus tip that'll be at the end. So you've got to keep the attention throughout. And some people do that with motion graphics on the screens, with the video, text, stock video. It's something that as you're watching, it's going to trigger the brain to stay engaged, to stay, oh, what was that? Okay. And it almost wakes it up and gets it back interested. So those are all different ways that you can keep people's attention. And the really successful podcasts are doing that a lot better than the average one. So think within your own show, what can you do throughout your episode, either during recording or in edit, that you can implement to keep the viewer's attention, the listener's attention, engaged longer throughout it. And then the third piece that successful video podcasters do compared to the average is that they are more consistent, and they've been consistent. You look at a lot of the big name shows out there, ones that everyone knows about, and they've been doing either their business growing an audience, their brand growing an audience, or their show growing an audience for multiple years, 3 or more years, most likely. So they've taken the time. They've put in the work, they've done what it takes to grow an audience and continue to grow that. They showed up when they didn't feel like it. They showed up when they didn't feel good. They showed up when they weren't getting results. They showed up consistently. So if you're out there and you're listening and you're wondering why you're not growing or, why you're not having the results you want, look at yourself. Are you showing up consistently? Are you going and reaching out to people who might be interested in your show? Are you going and reaching out to new guests? Are you going out and posting about your episodes, your show, your expertise consistently, at least once per day? It might seem like a lot, but the average and under average brands and shows out there are posting once a month, once a week. So you've got to stand out. You've got to do more and be seen. So are you showing up? Are you being consistent? Are you being consistent on other people's podcasts, utilizing their audiences to get in front of someone who's already warmed up and listening then you can share your expertise and maybe have some new audience members via that. So you put it in the work. Are you doing it consistently to become successful? So those were 3 quick tips that I wanted to share that set successful video podcasts apart from the average everyday podcast. And maybe you're in between. Maybe you're on your way to being that quote unquote successful podcast. And successful isn't always about metrics. It's not always about downloads and subscribers. It's about the community you can build and serve. So if you're having consistent growth within your business, within the podcast, that's success. And if you're early on, you just got to keep going and that success will start to look different and it'll start to grow and change as well. So I hope these 3 tips could bring some clarity to your direction with your video podcast, with your brand, with your business, with your agency. I hope you can implement, start making some tweaks, be consistent. And I look forward to seeing you in the top ranked video podcasts out there. So keep going, keep pushing, elevate your brand, elevate your show, elevate what you're doing. And we'll talk to you next time.
Thank you for listening to the Elevate Media Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a review. See you in the next episode.